Okay, so hello everybody. I am today with Holly Rhiannon from Awakening Avalon Temple, founder of Awakening Avalon Temple, and we will speak together about the blue roses. And I'm very honored to meet you, Holly, and this is really a pleasure to speak about this very special order of the blue rose. Maybe would you like to present maybe your connection to this field and to this order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Anastasia. It's really, truly so lovely to be here with you. I'm so happy that you invited me to come and talk about the Order of the Blue Rose and to be together today. You know, we were speaking a little bit before we got the recording started, and I was sharing about how I love connecting in as a collective, as a group field, connecting in with other women who carry this really deep heart presence of the divine feminine Christ energy. And so I'm so happy to be diving in with you today, and just always love being with you. So thank you so much for creating this beautiful opportunity to gather. And welcome to everyone who is here, who will be listening to this recording. Welcome to the energy of the blue rose. Welcome to the energy of your body, your sacred feminine body. Welcome to the energy of your sacred feminine heart, womb, and mind. So when we are in the field of the blue rose, like in the temenos of the blue rose, the energetic, the frequency of the blue rose, we are in a very, very deep part of the feminine soul. And I mean, I can say so much about it, but let's see, you did ask about my personal connection to it. And, you know, it's been kind of a really beautiful feminine flow of understanding and awakening to the energy of the blue rose and this group collective that is called the Order of the Blue Rose. For myself, and I think probably for all women who feel the call of the blue rose, we don't really quite know what it is at first when we are aware of it. And because it's a very refined energy, and it can be very subtle but very powerful. One of the ways that I first came into connection, and I didn't really even understand it at first as the Order of the Blue Rose, but I had a very powerful journey in my late teens and early 20s. That was a significantly long, dark night of the soul, where I was healing with some experiences of sexual abuse from my childhood. And I just I was never able to really find myself comfortable and well-adjusted to the world the way that it is, right? I'm a very deeply sensitive, empathic being, very romantic, very artistic and creative. I was a dancer. I spent most of my hours dancing or painting, writing poetry. So I just couldn't find a way to fit in. And then I had this trauma that really seemed to run me. And I started to have a series of very powerful visions with a beautiful angelic being, who I didn't know at the time exactly who she was, but she had 3 sets of wings, which is a seraphim energy, and she just really came in and was there with me as I was moving through this dark night of the soul. And truly, I can say that she really saved me in many ways, right? I mean, I know you've had a deep journey as well with healing, and many of the women in the Order of the Blue Rose have, because we are working to actually heal the collective feminine Christed womb. And so many of us take on these kind of very deep journeys with that. And then my mother, actually, who is a challenging person for me in some ways, but she's very deeply connected to Christ. And when I was at that time in my life, she was actually in connection with angels, and she would perceive people's guardian angels. And she said to me one time, she actually had a vision that this being, I hadn't told her anything about, the visitations that I was having. And she woke up one morning and she came to me and she said, last night I had this angel show up at the end of my bed. And it's this big, huge female angel. And she said that her name was Sar, or Sarah, or Sarai. My mom couldn't quite get the name, but it was like these, she said, is it Sar or Sarai or Sarah? And yeah, I feel the chills now too, even saying that. And so it was this being that had been coming to me and that my mom had perceived as a guardian angel, is Sarah, who is Sarah Tamar. She's the daughter of Yeshua and Magdalena. And she carries this pure hearted energy, as an embodied ascended master who is truly, she is off the wheel of karma, right? She's this extraordinary presence of grace, of peace and power together. And so from there, now I know many of the women who actually are in the Order of the Blue Rose have a deep background with Catholicism or Christianity in some way. And I actually did not. I did not grow up with any particular kind of religion. My parents were, nominally Protestant. My dad's family was Presbyterian. My mother's family was Methodist, but they didn't really practice. I think I went to Sunday school just maybe like a few times, but it was always very deeply. I had lots of visionary mystical experiences in the dream time. Always really wanted connection. So I actually, in my teens, I would go to Catholic Mass with my Catholic friends. I would go to temple with my Jewish friends. I was always searching for very deep connection to God. And even before that, I had, my path with Avalon started actually really quite early. I was obsessed with the Arthurian and Avalonian myths. And so anyway, I had this very powerful visionary experience with Sarah, and she's remained a very potent guide and ally for me. And I think she's actually, in my experience, of course, this was many decades ago now, and she wasn't very well known at that point at all. It was still very, very hush hush, anything about Magdalena and Yeshua ever being connected as lovers or spouses or, having children or anything like that. That was still very, very taboo. It was just probably after I was having these visits with Sarah, it was probably maybe even, I don't know, maybe about 8 years, 9 years or so until I think the Da Vinci Code got written, and, more of the research, kind of more of the esoteric Gnosticism started to emerge into, more presence within the global communities. And I really feel that right now, Sarah is activating through many of us very powerfully, because she is a guide and a very powerful anchor for us as we turn the ages, right? As we are in this time where we are clearing off distortions, and really, truly stepping out of the suffering and the misery that the last, I think it's in my journey, I've seen that it's the last 13,000 years from the fall of Atlantis and the distortions kind of activating at that point. But she's here really right now. She's showing up for many, many, many people, women, men, children, as truly an anchor, a dreaming node of what it means to live as this embodied presence of the divine feminine Christ. So that was how that was kind of my gateway, was through Sarah. And then it just really evolved, you know, the clues dropped in, the synchronicities as they happen on this very mystical path. You know, there are these little, or maybe not so little, but sometimes subtle, sometimes very, very loud clues that our guides bring us that help us to understand and awaken more. And I think the actual understanding that there was a collective, and truly this is a mystical order of priestesses called the Order of the Blue Rose. This awareness started coming to me personally for my own path probably about 10 years ago. And then it was about 5 years ago that I had, this is a funny story. So I hope it's okay, I'm talking a lot right now. there's a lot to share, but this, I'll share this story and then we can drop more into maybe a conversation. So in terms of Order of the Blue Rose and kind of teaching and sharing about it, about 5 years ago, I was in a business coaching container, right? And I've since realized I'm eminently uncoachable business-wise. I'm deeply vowed to Avalon. I don't care anything for the algorithms of social media or anything like that. I can't really wrangle my teaching and the temple into doing any of that. So I'm truly like a horrible student to be coached in a business program. So I don't do them anymore. But at that point I was kind of searching for support to do this, this side of the priestess work. And we were on a journey. We're supposed to be connecting in, meditation journey. We're supposed to be connecting in with our divine right client. And I was kind of, I'd been teaching priestessing already for many years. And I knew that my quote niche was to train priestesses of Avalon. That had been another mystical vision and guidance along my way. And so I was already doing that. And so I kind of dropped into this meditation just as like, okay, I'll do it because it's part of the program and I love meditation anyway, right? So I did this journey and, the mist clears, we go to a clearing and the mist clears and your divine right client steps out from behind a rock or something like this. And the being that stepped out from behind the rock was Mother Mary. And I just thought, well, Mary, what are you doing here, right? Because how can I serve you? Basically, how is it even possible that you would be my divine right client, right? Because the kind of focus was we were supposed to ask this avatar of our divine right client, what were their problems and what were their issues that we could then help them solve. And so anyway, so I asked Mary, I was like, what could I help you with? And she showed up. I just deeply, I love Mary so much. She showed up and she just had, she's got the rivers of the blue light that just pour off of her in the etheric realms, right? So those beautiful, they look like veils in the images that we see of her drawn. But, when I see her etherically, it's just these rivers of water just pouring off of her. And she's radiant and beautiful. And she says to me, I have something I need you to do. And I said, what? And she took my hand and she led me into this dark cave. And it was a deep, dark blue cave. And in the corners of the cave were blue rose petals, and there were sapphires everywhere, and there were dragons, blue sapphire dragons that were asleep and curled up in the corners. And in the walls of the cave were little cocooned wombs, and then Morgana also showed up. And of course, Morgana is my main devotion. And with her, I work within the Avalonian Temenos, meant for my whole life, many lifetimes. And Morgana gave me the two of the swords of Avalon. And Mary said, I need you to free my great queens. Not her queens, but her great queens. She said, these are the women that are in the order of the Blue Rose. And so I had to take the swords and cut the women out of the cocoons and pull them out, and they're all covered with the beautiful waters of birth and all of that, and like kind of clean them up and bring them back, and so from there I've just started offering little bits and pieces about the Order of the Blue Rose, and starting to connect with other women who carry that code. And so it's truly just been a really beautiful journey, and continues to be.
Oh, it's so beautiful what you experimented, this vision. Yeah. It's really grace.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's very clear.
It was very clear. Yes, Mary was very clear. She said it's time for the great queens to awaken. It's time for the great queens to come out of sleep, come out of the cocoon, and truly, kind of like, it was very gentle, but it was very powerful, and just so powerfully heartfelt. And and I really feel that it's all of us waking up together, right? And I know that in my personal journey, that the reclaiming of my voice as the sword, right? The sword is connected to air, is connected to our voice. I know that using words to help awaken and clear off the things that have kept us safe, right? Safe in the cave, and safe in the place of sleep and rest and all of that. But now it's time, right? It's time for the rebirthing of this feminine Christ energy. And so I have very specifically really devoted things that I write and things that I say to nourishing this energetic, because it is very different than what we find even in a lot of the things that have been out there about the reclamation of the divine feminine Christ. The Blue Rose it's got a different energetic, right? It's as I was sharing in my own personal journey, I think probably for many women who will be listening to this, and for you as well, we can be kind of confused within the overwhelming kind of harshness of the modern world, right? Having these deeply sensitive, resonant, refined, feminine energies. And so the one thing that I've noticed is that when we are gathering together more, and we spoke about this again too, you were saying this as we were hopping on the call, just that it's so good to gather together, because really we are meant to work as a collective.
Yes, absolutely. That is also what I felt a lot, and what I spoke also with Michelle, that when I act something which is really in this essence, and which requires some courage, yes. I really feel I do it also for the collective, and it is something which is through me, and it is. I'm wondering also about the Blue Roses, as you spoke. If it is as if it is an order, or for some souls who are coming at these special times now, because I hardly heard about blue roses before. You know, it's not very common in the divine feminine fields. It's very, I never heard about this before, actually, before meeting you.
Yeah, it's it definitely has that quality of the mystical and the mystery, and I think it's very important that we really allow that to be, because I find that frequency is the frequency where we have access to the miraculous healing powers of the Christ energies, right? And specifically the divine feminine Christ energies that we can't really, through our kind of modern logical mind, we can't touch it, right? We need to be in this step out of our comfort zone and into the realms that are, you know, it's a very enchanted kind of energy, right? And, you know, we are, in my experience, we are entering in as the ages turn. Of course, there's the energetic of all of the old paradigm dying and the new paradigms being born. And within that, there's the presence of the eternal that is always there, that is accessed no matter what age we're in. And I find for me that presence of the eternal, we can feel it in our hearts, and we can know it and be a creatrix of it, a co-creatrix of that in our womb space. And then we can ask the mind to kind of get on board and, you know, surrender and settle into the body, so that the words can come that evoke something, but that it's really very deeply somatic and emotional experience. And that when we stay loyal to that, we start to really deeply clear our own cells, our DNA, from the looping of the suffering that keeps the old paradigm in place. You know, it's a revolutionary act, isn't it, to be loyal and have faith with that which we can't control. And yet that's the very thing that carries our sovereignty, right? And you know, I know that for me on my journey, that the quest for sovereignty has been at the core. You know, first it kind of outpictures as a quest to feel empowered, both psychologically and mentally, emotionally. But underneath that, it's really, to me, it's really about finding God, Goddess, all that is the great mystery as it lives inside of us. You know, and that's what I truly know is, you know, how Yeshua healed. He was in contact with that, and he was emanating that. And so just being near him was a resonance where then, you know, other souls started to remember, right? Remember and become whole and holy again. But it does require, you know, this connection between hollowness and holiness, and being a resonant kind of reed energy, like hollow, right? So that the emptiness can be filled with God. I think that's one of the hallmarks of the Order of the Blue Rose, and one of the reasons why we're here is to be a vessel of this really truly miraculous energy. And Sarah for me is, you know, again a primary guide in that. I think I might have shared at one point, I know you were in the those Avalon Mystery Tradition teaching classes that I was teaching last year. And, you know, as these ages turn, one of the names of the new age, quote, new age, that I really love is that the coming age is the age of Michael and Mary. And they're both deeply connected into these frequencies of the Blue Rose. the blue rose, of course, doesn't exist out in nature, right? It doesn't exist in the third dimensional world. And so its code does carry this that is enchanted and miraculous and mystical and magical. And, you know, all these kind of exalted potentials, exalted geniuses that we actually have in our DNA are coded by the blue rose. And so I know that we all, as women of the blue rose, we carry those potentials within us. And again, they do open in the collective as well too, right? So they stabilize, maybe not open, but stabilize within the collective. I mean, I can feel it even right now as we're talking, and as I can feel the other women that will be listening in, right? That kind of, it's like a shimmering type of field of energy, isn't it?
Yes, I was thinking blue roses are also the flowers of Mary Magdalene, but I've never heard, as you speak now clearly, it's really Sarah with the yes, the taking this energy. And I was also wondering about the water. I feel the blue roses are really connected to water, and as I'm very connected to mermaids and watery realms, for me it is quite natural. Blue roses are really from the water. I don't know how you feel about this.
Yeah, I definitely agree that, you know, the waters are a primary elemental realm of the Order of the Blue Rose that we exist within and as, and that the watery elements of emotions and dream time and, you know, the waters of life, right? The water, the living waters of the Grail, all of these are very deeply woven into the teachings and the transmissions of the Order of the Blue Rose. I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment, but I did want to just drop in around Magdalena just for a minute. You know, one of the really beautiful pieces of lore and legend about the Order of the Blue Rose is that the blue rose was actually Magdalena's favorite flower, and that Yeshua gave her a blue rose on the night in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? The night of the Last Supper before the crucifixion the next day. And of course, some of the deeper storyline of that is that they made love that night, and that he gave her the blue rose that he gave her was actually Sarah. And that, you know, she was the Magdalena established the Order of the Blue Rose, and that she called her teachings the Blue Rose teachings to carry forward these great transmissions of the miraculous power of the indwelling God, right? And living as that and in devotion to that. And so I think that, you know, we oftentimes also see in some of Magdalena's specific lore is that she is resonant with both the red and the blue frequencies, right? So we see her oftentimes in red, but we also see her in blue, and that the two of them together are actually part of her field. And I mean, I feel her in just about, you know, every color that there is, but that there is this story legend about her and the blue rose. And so she just, as you were speaking about that, she just dropped in and she wanted to make sure that that was shared as well. And that, yes, indeed, you know, she did call her teachings, and the community that gathered around, the secret community that gathered around her as she carried the teachings forward. It was embodied in Sarah, but that also there was actual people that were gathered together, and they were the Order of the Blue Rose. And that was tended to and passed down, you know, even through to today, in terms of a physical bloodline and certainly a spiritual bloodline as well too. And that we do access that, I feel, much of the feminine Christ energies for the women of the Order of the Blue Rose is accessed through our devotion to the emotional realms, right? The blood power is the power of the waters of the Grail within our veins, right? This song that sings in the blood. And it's also the menstrual blood as well too, right? These living waters of creation, the waters of the womb. And so I fully agree with you, that the water realm is a primary elemental frequency that we really are, as divine feminine Christ coded beings, that we're really here to have loyalty to again, right? Like this sense of reclaiming our emotions for ourselves, the big emotional tides that can move through us. And then also, you know, instead of thinking, this is one of the primary things that Magdalena, Mary, and Morgana, so many of the goddesses actually really, you know, in terms of their, and really this, for me, this traces back to the Lady of the Lake and the Avalonian traditions, right? So the lake being the deep waters of the womb and the waters of the void. And these ladies of the lake, right? They're obviously sovereign queens of the waters, right? That they're very clear that emotions don't need to be healed, that emotions are, like, the experience of the emotions themselves are what heals, right? So we've been trained and we've learned to denigrate emotions and to think we must control them, or to think that they're too big, or that there's some kind of a liability, right? In this really distorted hierarchical version of civilization that we are currently you know, living within right now. But that as we reclaim those emotions and as we honor them, and not just, we don't have to heal them, we actually, it's the actual experience of allowing these emotions to flow, and like the deep frequencies of them, these are the energies of the Grail that create, right? They bring God here. So beautiful. I know you're very devoted to that. I just always am so inspired by your artistry with the waters, and I love watching, you know, the videos that you create. And, so beautiful, the poetry.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to ask you also how you feel about the connection with Venus, the planet Venus, and Atlantis with the blue roses. Is there any link for you with
yeah, definitely. I'm not as focused with the Venus and the Venus cycle and all of that myself, but certainly, you know, one of the things that I very powerfully see is that in our again, in our modern versions of astrology, Venus and the moon are the only two, quote, traditional planets that have a connection to the feminine, right? So all of our feminine archetypes, psychologically, somatically, have been assigned to Venus and the moon in our just normal kind of Western astrology version of astrology that is out there. And there's a lot more that's evolving with that now, which is so beautiful. And so I do see that Venus and the moon specifically within, and again, it is a limited paradigm of astrology, that they've held all of the faces of the feminine, right? Now, I've been in a really powerful, amazing journey of kind of redeeming for me, a deeper layer of star lore, and going very, very deep into both my Celtic ancestry and my own actual just connection into the cosmos and to the stars. And there's a lot of mythology that is outside of traditional astrological concepts that I feel is emerging to actually allow us to expand into more of the feminine, right? And so, you know, if I look at astrology, I think actually, you know, the planet Neptune, who is the god of the waters, right? But I find Neptune actually to be much more feminine than masculine, really. Not that there isn't deep emotions in the masculine, but that, you know, that Neptune oceanic consciousness really feels very deeply like the primal void, right? And the womb, you know, all physical life actually emerged from the waters. Now, there is a powerful, I have had some esoteric and etheric journeys to the planet Venus, where I have experienced temples of the blue rose there. I've experienced a Magdalene temple on the planet Venus. My personal connection goes to the Pleiades, the Pleiadian system, and the Sirian system, like these fixed stars, and you know, these kind of like at the next level out. So Venus and the moon would be our planetary solar system, right? Kind of our local neighborhood. And then the next layer out would be galactic and cosmic and all of that. And so for me, I get very deeply inspired by the transmissions that come from these more galactic based star systems, because they're not limited by our challenged relationship with polarity that we have here in the distorted paradigms. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. I don't know if you have a feeling about that either, but that's just been some of my journey.
I have a feeling about that, just about the transmission about Aldebaran. I spoke just before, you know, this experience, which is my personal experience I had. And but I felt this more connected to the rose. And for me, the rose is connected to Venus. So it is maybe not clear enough for the moment in my process. It was just because the rose, for me, the rose is also the rose lineage, which is connected to Venus.
Yes.
And as we speak about blue rose, and Venus is really the archetype of the divine feminine energy. There is something here.
Yes.
Also, we are now in this special eclipse portal. And I feel, as we speak about those blue roses field, we are connected to this blue ray, as you told us. And in what I feel is as if we are really recreating something together, like a new beginning in conscious, as we reconnect and we yes, it's difficult to put words because it's really about the creation, very something very original in the essence. I don't understand if you see this also.
Yeah, I definitely feel that very deeply. And well, one thing that, you know, I know you had asked about Aldebaran, and you know, the fixed star Aldebaran is connected to the Archangel Michael. And of course, he is connected to the blue ray. And so I actually feel, I mean, this is part of my own personal journey, but I do think that part of the this coming solar eclipse that we are having very soon, from when we're speaking right now, it'll be happening on the 4th of December, 3rd or 4th of December, depending upon, of 2021, depending upon what your time zone is. And solar eclipses begin something new. We've just been through a very potent lunar eclipse, really, we've been in a cycle since 2018 of all the old timelines actually collapsed at that point. We've been living in kind of residue since then. And so lots and lots of karmas have been completing. And many of us are through, whether it's the guidance of Sarah or, you know, the energetics of the blue rose awakening within, you know, we've been supported to slough off the identities that are fused with suffering and karmic looping. And this coming solar eclipse has a very potent purpose, which is to actually activate the order of the blue rose, in my experience again, has been that there is a mated energy between the women of the order of the blue rose and their grail knight, right? That there's a corresponding brotherhood. And that, to me, I'm just kind of curious about your connection with Aldebaran and the experiences that you have had, the transmissions and the connection with Michael, and Michael being kind of like a leader, archetypal figure for the masculine, right? A very potent, divine, masculine, blue ray, blue flame energy. And just that I have seen, and we're coming up into 2022, which is a 222, a number 6 frequency year, which is it's a lover's year. It's a year of union and a year of love, right? Where love gets exalted. And to me, you know, it's, you know, Sarah herself is an emanation of the love that Magdalene and Yeshua had for and with each other and as each other. And, you know, she emerged from a twin flame union. And so when you were sharing that before, you know, before we got on the recorded part of the call too, I just had a flicker around. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's part of the powerful feeling of these transmissions descending from Aldebaran. And just that they're, you know, we're so supported. We're so much more supported than we oftentimes remember. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited to see how the Order of the Blue Rose, the women, men that are connected, the brotherhood, how this will kind of emerge and start to unfold. And I do really fully believe that, you know, we're in uncharted territory now, and we are creating this age of Michael and Mary and the golden dawn, or the new earth. You know, earth is heaven, heaven on earth. We are creating this as we live it, as we live the emergent story, right? So I feel like there's a new mythologies of Venus and the moon and the stars and all of these. Like I just feel like they really want. There's just something that they're birthing anew through the eternal realms, right, which are unchanging as well, but that there is something really extraordinary afoot.
Yes, absolutely. And we are co-creator in consciousness and interconnection. Yeah. I've just one more question before we are ending. Do you think France would have a special role, particular role to play in this Blue Roses adventure?
Yes, I love that question, and I love. I'm so glad you asked it. And yes, I do actually. And of course, I know you are French, and, you know, blessings on your throat, right? You know, a lot of times we have things, this is our blue area too, right? From like above the heart to below the mind. Lots of activations that move through with our voice for all of us, you know, right? Just like, there's things to say. There's a sacred song to sing, right? Yes. So in the legends and the lore of the blue rose, of course, we hear that it's Magdalena's flower, Sarah is blue rose. Now, the legends say, of course, that as they left the Middle East, they came as refugees, and both spent time in Avalon in the United Kingdom in the Somerset area, but mostly these teachings, and Magdalena and Sarah lived, and they came to France, Saint-Marie de la Mer, arriving there at the Camargue, and then settling in that western beautiful area of the Languedoc in France, and that their bloodline actually rooted itself in those lands, right? So I do believe that there are deep codes, because these great beings lived and had their lives in a harmonic with the mountains and the valleys and the waters and the springs and the caves that were there. Of course, we have the lore that says that Magdalena lived in a cave, St. Baum, and all of this, and her frequencies, Yeshua's frequencies, Sarah's frequencies, they were living beings. And so when we live in a place consciously, and we are in connection and doing ceremony with the land and with the elemental realms and the places that we live, we leave deep imprints. There are light seeds, light codes and seeds that get planted and woven into the landscapes where history happens, right? So it's also why things where you can go to places that have had great devastation happen, and you can feel the energies. I know, like I spent some time. My grandmother is actually from France as well, and she grew up, her family's from the Marseille area, from this area, and then also grew up in Paris, was there during the occupation in World War II, and so I visited the concentration camps, and you can feel what has happened on the land, the positive and the grief-filled as well. And so I do believe that there are codes in the lands of France for the Order of the Blue Rose, specifically around like very specific teachings. And I really love, I think one of the connections that I've seen, there's so much to say about this, even just the fact that the French flag, it's got the blue and the red and then the white, and the fleur-de-lis is said to be the three children of Magdalena and Yeshua. So it was Sarah Tamar was the first, and then Yeshua David, and he was the youngest, and then I'm blanking, it's Josh James, I think. Anyway, I should know that. I know it's somewhere in the files of my head that there was a third brother. He was actually the second brother, and then Yeshua David. Anyway, the three petals of the lily of the fleur-de-lis are supposed to be the three children of Magdalena and Yeshua. And so yes, absolutely. And then the piece that I also really see, that I feel it's even woven into the folk soul of France, which is, French is romance language, and the French are good lovers, and love is very, very important in the cultural milieu of Francais. And so that feels to me that's part of a frequency that is about the way of love, right? That Magdalena and Yeshua taught. And also that it's a little bit of a chicken before the egg kind of thing too, which is that, yes, those lands got infused and seeded with their presence, but the lands themselves carried something before they arrived there that was a harmonic, that was resonant with their field, and that was helping them to fulfill their mission as well too, right? So that the lands carried stories, carried crystals, carried crossing of ley lines that opened up these great sovereign frequencies of the earth, right? And so I believe, and I see that Magdalena and Sarah, the community, and Yeshua, I do believe he was there as well too, that they were actually nourished and fed by the frequencies of the French land as well, the mountains and the waters and even the air and all of that, that there's a a co-creative harmonic with the land that we live with as well. So,
the creation with nature also.
Yeah.
And that's the enchanted way of living.
Yes.
That's the Avalonian path also, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. It's beautiful. I think we are at the end of our conversation. It's quite the time.
I feel like we could spend hours just communing and being and singing and creating. I hope we get to meet. We have not met yet in person, and I know soon, maybe next year, right? 2022, the year of love.
I would love coming to visit you in Avalon. Next year, probably.
And maybe I shall come and visit you in France. We hope to send out lots of blessings for all of the challenges to clear, so we may all gather again and resonate with each other and dance.
Thank you very much for this Blue Roses time again, and Blue Roses conversation. Yes, I will meet. I will organize another meeting with Michelle Christine, which is who is also a Blue Rose woman, and we will pursue our conversation.
Yes, that sounds just lovely. Thank you so much, Anastasia. It's been really delightful to be with you this morning. Thank you so much. Many blessings to all of you women and sisters and brothers, whoever is listening to this. Blessings of the Blue Rose to you. Thank you for you. Thank you for your soul. And may the blessings of this blue frequency and this way of love continue to deepen and activate and awaken in all who hear the call.
To expand and to flourish.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, lady. I'll see you soon.